And we came, first of all, because I was committed to come for two reasons. First of all, to be next to my good colleague Corina Crețu, and the second is to be among mayors, because maybe you don't know, but I have been mayor myself for 2 terms in the city of Athens. I never forget it, and I am very close to mayors whenever they try to tackle all these difficult issues, because I know, since I have lived it, what does it mean. Just to tell you that the very first wave of irregular migrants mixed with refugees, but in a totally different way, took place in the beginning of the 90s, when hundreds of thousands of citizens from the former Eastern European countries were coming over to Europe. And in Greece, we were confronted with a difficult situation. It was the Albanians that were coming there. And who was the first one to suffer and try to find a solution? The mayors. The mayors had no idea. The countries were caught by surprise. The mayors did not have the means, the tools, the competence, and the money. So we have to cope with this reality. And today, given this new situation, let me tell you that I'm among the ones who really know and feel what the cities are trying to do under very, very difficult circumstances. So the initiative undertaken by my colleague to convene this meeting is more than important, because you, the mayors, you are the front of our common and joint effort to address this issue. So we have to be supportive to you, to understand you, and of course to listen to you. This has to do also not only with the Commission, but also with the national governments. Well, our priority right now, as Corina said before, is to address the challenges of the refugee crisis. As I told you, I have just come back from Turkey. I'm sure you have been following very closely what has happened there during the last days. But this should not let us neglect or forget the importance of integration, which is the substance of this meeting here today, of legal migrants, of refugees. A successful integration is an essential element of a successful migration policy. Integration takes place at the local level. This is why I'm grateful to Eurocities and, of course, to my good colleague Corina Crețu for having taken this initiative. Cities, as I said in the beginning, are at the front line of this process. Mayors, local governments in general, municipalities, have an important, substantial, crucial and major role in the integration process as they manage the challenge of welcoming migrants in their respective communities on a day-to-day basis. And I can tell you from the experience of that time, this process is far from easy. I mentioned before my experience in mid-90s. There are many similarities with what is happening today. With the latest refugee crisis and the sheer volume of people that arrived since last year, this challenge has become even more difficult, even more complex. Frankly speaking, the crisis has pushed many cities to their limits. When refugees arrive to Europe, the local authorities are usually the first to provide for their basic needs. First aid, medical services, food, clothing, shelter, etc. They are also responsible for setting up and hosting reception centers. And now, with the recent relocation scheme, they are also the ones who are welcoming the relocated refugees and having to integrate them in their local social fiber. So we should recognize and congratulate cities for their valuable work in dealing with the refugee crisis. In the Commission, we are very conscious of what is happening at this level. And as Corina said before, we are ready to provide you with the necessary help understanding and support. This work is the ultimate expression of Europe's universal values: solidarity, humanity, responsibility, dignity, and respect of human rights. The challenge of integration should, however, not make us forget the advantages of multicultural cities. Many of them are represented by their mayors around this table. A more culturally aware society and ethnically diverse workforce can help in order to foster a culture of tolerance and acceptance of differences. Dear friends, today's event, as I was told by Corina, has been very, very useful. It offered insight of how the European Commission can better contribute, can better assist the efforts of cities. It also underscored the importance of strengthening the dialogue and cooperation between the local and the European authorities. The exchange of experiences and best practices implemented in many cities is a great example of this cooperation, which can help identify effective, efficient, and financially sound solutions to the current challenges. The Commission is committed to further assisting both Member States and local governments and cities with additional financial means, targeted guidance, and policy advice. For the period 2014-2020, the Commission has made available around €760 million for integration purposes for Member States under the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund. We have also encouraged Member States to look into how the existing allocations under the European Structural and Investment Funds could be used for a wide range of measures regarding social inclusion, education and labour market integration, including access to services and infrastructure. But you will agree with me that it is not only about money. The Commission is now working on an EU action plan on integration, and we want to underline the importance of integration. It offers concrete support to Member States on integrating not just those who have recently arrived, the newcomers, but also those who may have been in Europe for several years. Let me here make a remark. It is to be questioned why all these young people who were born in our countries and they consider somehow our country's homeland, why one day they turn their guns against their own home? Is the question to be answered? Because finally, all the ones who perpetrated all these terrorist acts, they were homegrown. They were not migrants or refugees. Maybe they crossed the same route. But the question is here, why? So the answer is very simple. The integration policy has to be reconsidered and revised. And when we talk about integration, we come to the topic of this meeting here today. And we are very sensitive on that in the European Commission, as I'm sure this morning Corina had the time and the pleasure to express to you. One thing is clear. We cannot afford fragmentation at any level of the process. We must stick and work together. We must coordinate our efforts. And of course, Europe's cities must be at the heart of this process.